Look at you. Look at us. Yeah, you're flying the flag. I love it.
I am. I'm a big Chucky fan, let me tell you.
I love it. I love it. We got to get you some more merch.
There you
I see. Wow, I
go.
see your shirt too. Look at that. Amazing. I haven't even seen that one. It's amazing.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Great, I'm great. So, first off, let me say you have been involved in some seriously impressive projects. I mean,
Thanks.
Great Wall, As Above, So Below, Into the Dark. I really like Brand New Cherry Flavor.
Thank you.
That, and of course, Channel Zero. I never missed an episode of that. That was just awesome.
Yeah, it's a special one.
But we, of course, are here to talk about our favorite friend to the end, Mr. Chucky. So, what can fans expect this season?
Well, so the season is split into two halves, and the first four episodes that are playing and streaming now will show Chucky, in a kind of a wild concept, ingratiating himself into the first family at the White House, and that family is all new characters, and then we'll see the return of our legacy characters like Jake and Lexy and Devon, excuse me, and trying to sort of reconcile the sort of the grief and the trauma of the previous seasons, but also with the burden of knowledge that Chucky is dangerous, and now he's arguably in one of the most powerful homes in the world, and they need to figure out how to stop him. So emotionally, I think we're really excited about the Jake and Devon storyline and sort of seeing that relationship progress, and also examining the kind of the first family, not from any kind of political commentary or looking at it in a kind of a just a sort of a broader sense, but kind of like boiling it down to that this is a family that is dealing or not dealing with loss and grief. And I think that is something that a lot of people can relate to. And so I think trying to ground them and kind of humanize them and really show them in the residence of the White House, which is, I think, something that people don't associate a lot with, when you think about politics or the White House or anything else. You sort of think about the Oval Office and your war room and all those things, and we do depict those locations, but to really sort of show the family in the residence when nobody else, all the cameras and the Secret Service are away from that, of just how these characters interact with each other. And I thought that was such a fascinating idea that Don came up with. And again, I never in a million years would have thought Chucky in the White House as a storyline. But again, the credit to Don for coming up with a way to thread that needle and explore what could have been like a really zany concept, but really kind of treating it more like the Overlook Hotel, and looking at it like this is a creepy old house that this family is staying in, and all of the sort of ghost stories that underpin that residence just make for a really awesome foundation. And so all of that is sort of baked into the first four episodes. And we had to stop down because of the actor strike, but we will resolve that when things go back to normal. And the back half is just going to build on all of those subplots and storylines, and things are just going to get darker and twistier and more fucked up in the best way possible. And I think it's going to go into some really unexpected places. Really excited for fans to see it.
Well, when it comes to Chucky, that twisted and fucked up, it kind of goes far for the course, which is why we all love him so much. I mean, because he's that version of us that we really hide and, keep behind closed doors. But in our mind, that's exactly what we're saying. We're thinking is that, minus the killing, of course. But, you're thinking of, you want to say this to somebody and you can't. But Chucky can. And that gives him a certain charm.
Well, there's such a personality there, right? And it starts with Don and his writing and his depiction of that character, and he knows it so well. And it's always great because Chucky has a code there's certain things that he will and won't do. And so Don is truly the arbiter of that, and wanting to make sure that Chucky is not only, the mouthpiece for some of those issues, and in his own subtle way, but then also the iconic, rendering of Brad Dourif and his voice and the way that he's delivering those lines. The alchemy of that is something truly special. And again, just the way that Don sort of takes that character and just completely, reinvents him every season, or drops him into a different location or a different circumstance. And it all feels weirdly organic. It feels so natural that, Chucky settling into the White House, it just, yeah, it's like it makes sense when you kind of quickly settle in on that very first episode with the first family. You're like, oh yeah, this absolutely feels normal. And I think because that personality, and the way that some of the other sort of slasher icons, don't have that same level of personality, it just allows you so many more layers and so many other places that you can take that character.
Right, right. And like I said, he has his own certain charm. I mean, he's one of my favorites, simply
What?
because he's got that attitude, which is great. And I love Jennifer Tilly,
Oh
and I
yeah.
know her character gets
Legend.
the season.
Oh, sorry, repeat that. I was talking over you.
Her character gets into a little trouble this season. Is that right?
Oh yes, yes she does. Yeah, you will kind of pick back up on her. We'll see in episode 3. There's the flashback to basically how we you come to find what resolving Jennifer Tilly's Tiffany storyline from the end of season 2. And it's not a spoiler, but you'll see her land in prison, and she's on death row, and her attempt to get out of that. And a lot of mischief to be had along the way, and sort of up to her old tricks, and looking for the voodoo for dummies. And there are some really iconic kills within that storyline too, particularly in episode 4. And there's an amazing cameo that I don't want to ruin. But that actress was so sweet and was so down for anything. And I think when you see what happens to that character, you'll see that we're definitely looking for people who want to play in this weird sandbox, and are game to be killed or maimed in an amazing way.
Right. Right. So Chucky's known for being brutal. What kind of body count are we looking at this season?
It's pretty high. I think, again, I'm not keeping tabs, but I think that this may be the highest body count of the previous 2 seasons. It all starts with Dawn and the writers, who are sort of coming up with the most creative kills and making sure that they're not repeating themselves from previous seasons or kills from the films. So that's always a joy when they're pitching some storyline, and they've come up with a really creative death. And then of course it's trying to figure out, all right, how are we going to film that, and how are we going to stage that in a safe way. But in terms of body count, yeah, this season is definitely pushing the boundaries. And also, again, in terms of just like how unique some of these deaths are, and particularly the cameos that we have. A few of the stars from SNL, Kenan Thompson and Sarah Sherman. They were so lovely and on board with what we were going to do to their characters. So that just it's really quality over quantity is what I'm saying. And that's always the most fun, is when everybody's on set and being really professional and having a good time. And sure, you're staging something that's really horrific, but everything is so safe, and people are down to be really killed in the most gruesome way possible. So that's that's who we want to work with, is real collaborators like that.
Well, everybody, I mean, every horror fan wants to die in a horror movie or a horror series. It's kind of a thing. I do love that the Chucky's he's so mean, and it's so great. I love it. What is it like to executive produce a series like this? What does it take?
Well, it's a challenging show, no doubt. It's certainly fun and rewarding, but it is definitely a tricky one just because the Chucky of it all. Behind the scenes, it is a real puppet. It's not CGI. There's only some visual effects to paint out the puppeteers, but upwards of 6 to 8 people are always in process of rendering this performance. And so you've got it's a symphony treatment to sort of bring that puppet to life. And if one person makes an error or something like that, which never happens, of course, because they're perfect. But I'm joking, obviously. But what I'm saying is, like, it's a difficult show in the sense that there's a lot of planning that goes into the coordination of the puppet and just the rendering of that performance itself. And again, a huge credit goes to Tony Gardner and his entire team for just making it feel so seamless and giving that doll life and being able to use Brad Dourif's iconic voice in that way that the alchemy of that is so awesome to see when it works in the moment. But it's a tricky one because you're trying to service a lot of different things. One, you're trying to make it very scary and you want the kills to be creative, but then you also want to feel real drama within the characters, and you want to really associate or to be tethered to some of these people, especially beloved characters, when they're killed off, and not just feel like, oh, that was a cool death, and then you sort of move on to the next thing. It's definitely this balance of sort of maintaining that tension, and all the credit needs to go to Don and the writers for finding a way to kind of balance the two, where you really care about those characters and the jeopardy that they're in, and again, feeling like any of these characters could get killed off at any time, and the tension of that, really, to be able to sustain itself over multiple seasons, that is also something that's really, really satisfying, is just to make sure that we can kind of serve Don's vision in that way. And so it's a bit of a puzzle. Every season is its own sort of puzzle box, but it's all the more satisfying when you can sort of figure out how to crack it. And I'd be remiss in saying that the environment that Don Mancini creates on set is so professional and inclusive and friendly, which is obviously such a juxtaposition to what you actually see on screen. But it is such a warm and fun set to walk onto, and again, everybody is sort of operating at a high level, and it's definitely a difficult show to produce. But it's so much fun, and all of that is really, it starts and ends with Don, and so I have to give him all the credit in the world for just creating an environment where it is this sort of wonderful, weird playground that we all get to play in. And I think, I just, not to speak for Don, but I think he really cares about everybody, and just wants to make sure that everybody is, not only, getting the support that they need on set, and having fun in doing these things, because it is such a, it is long hours, and it is, difficult with all the coordination between departments. But again, that's what makes it really satisfying.
Well, the show looks great. It's.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that they went back to the original version, because some of the sequels, Chucky just doesn't look right. But I mean, the series looks good. It's a great show. It really is. And I love that we have that classic character to, continue to follow.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Don is always sort of wanting to kind of, reinvent the look of Chucky every season or have multiple looks. So there are certainly more iconic looks to come in this season that we haven't seen before. And I think that's always really, kind of fun to see how that look is going to change, or, whether it's the Hello Kitty mask or the fire will sort of make him look melted in season 1, or the sort of, the kind of Colonel Chucky or Hulk Chucky from last season, just like really kind of reinventing, all the different looks that you can have for Chucky. That's always a kind of an added bonus too. And so there's more to come for this season too.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it and continue to follow, my favorite little possessed doll. See what, getting into next. But I think our time is up. But I just, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Of course.
I'm a big fan of Chucky, period. So, it was a treat for me.